30 minutes. That's how early you have to be checked in for the PMP exam, and if you miss that window, you're not testing that day. There is no grace period. There's no negotiating at the counter. The appointment is gone, the fee is gone, and you drive home having answered 0 questions. And when it's finally over, the screen will tell you whether you passed. It will never tell you the one number every candidate asks about first, and there's a deliberate reason PMI has never published it.
Hey everyone, I'm Nora. Identification is where this falls apart most often. It has to be government issued, it has to be current, and it has to carry both your photograph and your signature. Expired by 1 week is still expired.
Across the series, we've pulled apart all 26 tasks on the examination content outline, one at a time. Today, we pull apart the day itself. Knowing the material and surviving the process are 2 different skills, and the second one is the one almost nobody teaches you.
This is Fenrir, and I treat check-in like a border crossing. The name on your identification has to match the name on your scheduling notice exactly, character for character. If the notice says Maria Elena Vasquez Ruiz and your license says Maria E. Vasquez, that's a mismatch, and a mismatch at that desk is
a refusal. Nobody fixes it at the counter.
Right, and it isn't personality, it's policy, and the person at the desk has no discretion to bend it.
Photocopies are refused outright. So is a card that's bent, cracked, frayed, or taped back together. Originals, in good condition, or you don't sit.
Once you're through security, the center hands you your thinking tools, and this part surprises people. It's either a booklet of scratch paper and 2 pencils, or 2 erasable marker boards with 2 markers and an eraser. You don't get to choose which. It depends entirely on what that center has in the cupboard that morning, so rehearse your brain dump both ways because a marker on a slick board behaves nothing like a pencil on paper.
Then a 15-minute tutorial runs before a single scored question appears. When that window elapses, the tutorial ends by itself and the exam begins. Don't click through it on autopilot. That's free time, off the exam clock, to steady your hands and empty your formulas onto whatever they handed you.
Formulas first, every time.
Nora has been fielding the same question all week, and it's the one that genuinely shapes how your day goes.
Every single day. Fine, here it is. Should I test at a center or at home? Most people answer that one on comfort, and comfort is exactly why it costs them.
So that's check-in. 30 minutes early, identification that matches to the character, and whatever the cupboard hands you to write with. And everything we've built for this exam is sitting free over at certs.professorerica.com, practice quizzes and study material included if you want to drill any of this tonight. Real quick, because this next part matters to you. If any of this is helping, tap that like button, then hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next one finds you. Both are free and take about a second, but they tell the algorithm to show this to one more person who needs it. Two candidates sit the same exam on the same morning and meet different question types, not different topics. Different formats purely because of where each of them chose to sit.
Which sounds like a technicality right up until you've drilled one format for 6 weeks and then never meet it.
Professor Antonov is at the desk for this one.
Nearly, though it runs the other direction. The center-based candidate meets more formats, not fewer. Matching, point and click, and pull down are center only, so the person testing at home is the one who never sees them.
So let's put the two of them side by side honestly, because neither one is the clever answer.
Start with what you write on. A center hands you paper and pencils or a marker board. At home, you get a whiteboard on the screen and nothing at all on the desk beside you.
Where is that from, Erica? I've heard it argued both directions, and I'd like the receipt before I repeat it to anybody.
The Examination Content Outline PMI published for this version of the exam. It sets out which formats run on which delivery mode, or more precisely, it groups them by mode, and the center-only group is matching, point and click, and pull down.
And on the home side, the thing that actually bites is the surface itself, digital only. No paper, no pen, nothing beside you. Erica, the exact wording on what is allowed on that desk is your lane, I'd get a detail wrong.
The desk has to be empty apart from the testing computer, approved comfort aids, and a drink in an unmarked container. And you stay alone the entire time. Nobody else may even see your screen from across the room. I had an older figure in my head for the check-in window, and I'm not going to state it from memory, so take the published one as the one that counts.
There's one line in the whiteboard documentation almost everybody scrolls past. If connectivity is lost during the exam, the whiteboard is wiped clean. Every formula, every eliminated option, every note you built over 3 hours, gone mid-exam.
So the entire brain dump is riding on your internet holding for 4 straight hours.
There's a free practice whiteboard though. If you're testing at home and you've not opened it before exam morning, that one is on you.
So here's the honest split, and it's not about who is tougher. If you think on paper, if your connection has ever wobbled, or if you've drilled the formats that only run at a center, book the center. If you test better in your own chair, if the nearest center is a 3-hour drive, and you're genuinely fluent working a whiteboard with a mouse, book at home. Both of those are correct answers. Choosing on comfort alone is the one that costs you. Professor Antonov, thank you. The wiped whiteboard is the detail I'd put on a poster.
Practice in whatever you'll actually be holding. The rest is decoration.
"240 minutes. That's the entire exam, and how it gets carved up matters far more than the total does.
180 questions across those 4 hours. Which sounds generous until you meet your first case study and watch 6 minutes disappear into a single item.
And of those 180, the number that actually counts toward your result is
All of them, obviously.
170, Nora. 10 of them are unscored pretest items being trialed for future exams, and you're never told which 10. That is deliberate. You answer all 180 as though every one of them counts, because you can't tell the difference.
Now the part that costs people points, and it's structural rather than academic. There are 2 10-minute breaks built into this exam. The first one arrives after the opening case study section.
Then let me ask the thing everyone is quietly wondering. What happens to my flagged questions at the break?
And when you come back from that break, the section you just left is closed. You can't return to it. Not to check an answer, not to revisit the one you flagged, not for anything.
Fenrir. That's the habit that costs people. The flag it and come back reflex every practice platform trains into you stops working at the break. Whatever is unresolved when you stand up stays unresolved.
Which changes how you pace the whole thing. Treat each section as its own small exam with its own ending, and clear your flags before you take the break, never after.
You can also take an unscheduled break, with the proctor permitting it. But understand the cost. You sign out of the room, you present your identification again on the way out and again on the way back in, and you're screened a second time before you sit down.
And the clock doesn't care. It runs the entire time.
One more thing worth knowing before you walk in, so it doesn't rattle you when you notice it. Every appointment is monitored by continuous audio and video recording, start to finish. That's routine. It is not a sign anybody suspects you of anything.
And 4 things end an attempt outright, wherever you're sitting. Using someone else to take the test. Failing to produce acceptable identification. Having access to notes or any prohibited aid. Or creating a disturbance. And on that last one, the administrator has sole discretion over what counts.
Sole discretion is the phrase to sit with. You don't get to argue the definition afterwards.
Picture Devin Okafor, a delivery manager with 9 years on infrastructure projects, who walked in with a solid plan and still lost 14 questions to 1 habit. He flagged as he went, told himself he would sweep back at the end, and reached the first break with 14 items still open. Those 14 closed with the section. He passed anyway. He should not have had to learn it that way. And before we get to what that report actually tells you afterwards, hold on to that word closed. At the top of this episode, I said the screen would never tell you the one number every candidate asks about first. Here's why. There is not one. PMI has never published a percentage you need in order to pass.
Which is going to annoy roughly everyone who has been quoting 61% for 20 years.
Professor Antonov, this is squarely your ground.
61% is folklore. It traces back to a figure PMI withdrew 2 decades ago, and it survives because a target is comforting. The passing standard is set by psychometric analysis against what a qualified practitioner should be able to do. Each scored question is worth 1 point, and the bar sits wherever that analysis puts it.
Then what does the report actually hand you?
Which report, though? The one on the screen the moment you finish, or the one that lands in your account afterwards? They aren't the same document, and people conflate them constantly.
The one in the account. The one you can actually study from.
Then it gives you 2 things: overall pass or fail and a performance rating for each domain. 4 categories: above target, target, below target, and
Needs improvement. That one I have seen on a screenshot.
above target means your performance exceeded the minimum requirements. Target means it met them. Below target means you fell slightly short of them. Needs improvement means you fell well short.
And those same 4 labels get applied to every domain separately, which is the genuinely useful part. It tells you where to aim if you have to come back.
And that diagnostic isn't only for the people who have to come back. The handbook is explicit that it gives guidance to passing and failing candidates alike, which matters more than it sounds if you're rolling straight into another credential and want to know which domain was carrying you.
Now here's the trap, and I want to be precise about it because it's the kind of thing that misleads people quietly. If you go hunting for a sample score report online, you'll find one. PMI publishes it. It's dated the 26th of May, 2016.
And it shows 5 domains: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, and closing. Those are the old process groups. They stopped being the way this exam is organized years ago.
The 4 rating categories on that sheet are still correct. The domain breakdown underneath them is a decade out of date. So if you've been quietly preparing to be graded across 5 process groups, you're preparing for an exam that doesn't exist anymore.
3 domains: people, process, business environment. That's what your report rates you on.
Which lines up precisely with how we built this entire series, so at least the map matches the ground.
Professor Antonov, thank you. Naming 61% as folklore is the single most useful thing anybody will hear this week.
Chase the standard, not a rumor about the standard.
You submit, the screen thinks for a moment, and then it tells you whether you passed. And almost nobody realizes that what they're looking at isn't final.
It's preliminary. That's the actual word PMI uses. Preliminary until they confirm it.
The official result reaches the online certification system within 10 business days of your exam date, and you get an email when it's there. In practice, it's usually far quicker. But 10 business days is the commitment, and that's the number to hold if the weight starts eating at you.
And the reason it stays provisional is that the scoring still has to clear its final validation pass before.
Sorry, can they take it back? Can a pass become a fail?
Practically speaking, no. Nobody should walk out of there braced for a reversal. The wording exists because the result isn't administratively final until PMI says it's, not because they're hunting for a reason to undo it. Celebrate on the day.
And if it didn't go your way, the report you get is the most honest study plan you'll ever be handed. It rates you above target, below target, or needs improvement in each of the 3 domains, so you're not guessing at what went wrong. It's written down.
I've the eligibility rules here somewhere, hold on. Right. 1-year eligibility window and 3 attempts inside it. So a first attempt that doesn't land isn't the end of anything. You've room. And now you've a map of exactly where you were thin.
3 failed attempts and you wait a year before you can reapply. Which sounds harsh until you notice it's really a warning about the second attempt, not the third. Don't book the retake out of wounded pride the same week.
And if you need to move the appointment rather than sit it, move it early. Rescheduling or canceling inside 30 days of the date carries a fee, and inside 48 hours you forfeit the entire exam fee. A no-show forfeits it too. That's an expensive way to buy yourself 2 more weeks.
Can I turn this though? We've spent 5 minutes on what happens if it goes badly. What actually changes on the day it goes well?
Honestly, less than people expect and more than they notice. The credential doesn't make you a better project manager. Everything we covered across this series is what does that. What the credential does is stop you having to argue for a seat you already earned.
Nora, that's the part I'd want a candidate to hear. You're not studying to collect 3 letters. You're studying because the reasoning behind those tasks is how the work actually gets done, and the exam is just the receipt.
And that's the whole series. 37 episodes, what changed in the 2026 exam, how to study for it, the 3 approaches, all 8 people tasks, all 12 on process, the 8 that carry business environment, and the trends that turn testable. If you followed it end to end, you've walked every task on the outline.
And the material isn't going anywhere. certs.professorerica.com has the practice questions and the study material free for as long as you need them.
If one thing survives from today, make it this. The exam isn't scored on the number you were told to chase. It's scored against what a competent practitioner would do, which means the honest preparation and the smart preparation are finally the same thing.
Which is a decent note to end a whole course on, honestly.
If this series carried you to the point where you're actually booking the exam, subscribing is what puts the next course in front of you the day it starts. And it costs you nothing. So before you go, I want to know, are you booking a test center or testing at home, and what made you choose? Go and book it. This is Professor Erica, and I will see you on the other side of that exam.